Heather McDonald has got the juiciest scoop. When you're on the road, when you're on the go, Juicy Scoop is the show to know. She talks Hollywood tales, her real life Mr. Segment serial data and serial sister. You'll be addicted and addicted fast to the #1 tabloid real life podcast. Listen in, listen up. Whoop whoop. Heather McDonald, Juicy Scoop.
Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. Well, I'm so excited. I have an old friend of mine, meaning that we met many, many years ago, Oscar winner, writer, TV personality in your own right.
Wow.
Mother of 3 boys, boy mom, most important title of all. Diablo Cody, probably best known for your Oscar win, which is Juno, most amazing movie. But you've done so many movies since, and you have a new movie out, Lisa's Frankenstein, which is, I saw
Just
it.
Lisa Frankenstein.
Oh, sorry, Lisa
No
Frankenstein.
possessive,
Sorry,
but that's
Lisa
okay.
Frankenstein. And it is a dark comedy. It's from your funny, twisted, off the beat mind. It's 80s, which I love. It's from the 80s. And yeah, congrats on everything. But how many movies have you done now?
I actually don't know. I'd have to count. I want to say it's like 7 or something.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And you wrote the play, the musical, Jagged Little Pill, which uses all of Alanis Morissette's music.
I did do that.
How did that come about?
That is honestly first of all, thank you for that lovely introduction, Heather. It's wonderful to see you. That came about in, these things typically start in a very unsexy way with a call from an agent. But normally, like, people had maybe, suggested that I get into the theater space before that. But I'd always been like, I'm not interested. Like, I'm not a theater kid. I don't want to go to New York. But when they said Alanis Morissette, then, come on. Like, I'm obsessed with her. I was obsessed with that album. And I just said, okay, I have to at least meet with her.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I just wanted an excuse to meet Alanis.
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking, I still don't know if I'm going to do this. And then I met with her. And then the next thing I know, I'm on this, like, it was like a 6 or 7 year journey to get that show to it took a long, spoiler alert, it's hard work.
So I have not seen it. So how did you come up with what the play would be about?
So the only, like, creative direction that I was given was that Alanis didn't want to do, like, a biography. Like, she didn't want it to be about her life.
Got it.
Because everybody who hears about the show and hasn't seen it, they always say, like, who played Uncle Joey? Always. And I'm like, there is no Dave Coulier in the show. No,
that's always yeah.
Yeah. Or, like, who played Alanis? And it's like, she's not in it. So I just thought, like, I listened to the album a few times. Not a few times, a million times. And I thought, like, I think that this is about a dysfunctional family. And it's about, like, religious trauma. And it's about, like, sweeping things under the rug versus addressing them and allowing yourself to heal, and, like, all these kind of big themes. And we did it.
Amazing. And now it's touring?
Yeah, we just finished the North American tour. And then the plan is eventually it'd be wonderful to have it in the West End.
Do you think it'll be a movie the way they're doing? Like, so many musicals are now becoming a movie. It's usually the other way around.
This gets brought up a lot. And I got to be honest with you, like, being real and not being, like, promo person.
Yeah.
I'm scared to do it because some musicals I do not think work as movies.
Okay.
Some do.
Grease,
for instance. I'm very excited for the Wicked movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the Mean Girls musical movie yet.
I haven't yet either.
But I want to.
I will, yeah.
And so, yeah, it comes up. But I always think to myself, like, what if we, like, accidentally took this property that's special to us and, like, butchered it?
Yeah.
I'm kind of a pessimist.
You are?
Big time.
You don't work The Secret?
Oh, my God. No, should I start vision boarding?
You don't, you know what? I've never done a board. I'm not crafty. So I've never gone to Michael's. I've never gone to, my friend used to go to parties every January with a bunch of women, and they'd get the magazines and they would do it. But have had things work out in other ways. Like when we first got married in the Catholic Church, we had to do, like, they're like, now draw a photo, draw something of, like, what your life will look like in 10 years. So I wasn't in the sky, okay? So I did a normal ranch home that was bigger than what we had, because at the time we had a condo. So I did, like, a little, half-acre lot with a semicircular drive and this many bedrooms. And And I was like, okay, I'll have my stepdaughter. I'll be pregnant with one and have another one that I already gave birth to within 10 years. And or somewhere around
Did you
there.
manifest your exact vision?
So then I was moving out of my house and I found the notebook, and that was the exact house that we were moving into. And I was pregnant with Brandon. I already had Drake. And it was 4 bedrooms. We added on to it after, but it was 4 bedrooms. It was a semicircular drive. And so I'm like, so there was lots of things that I would do in my life that I didn't know I was actually doing the manifesting. And then someone else said something recently that they're like, whether you work the secret, manifest, believe in the universe or God, or you are a Christian who prays, if you're praying for something, that is manifesting. So whatever works for you, but it's putting out positive thoughts. And it's the opposite of like jinxing yourself.
I do pray a lot. So maybe that's part of it. But generally, the pessimism stems more from, you know this probably. When you're in the business long enough, you see how many things don't come to fruition.
Right.
Especially, at least for me. Maybe everything you've done has.
No, not at all. I mean, I had pilots and auditions and everything that didn't work out.
And I'm just like, most of the time it doesn't work out.
Right. You probably have especially you being a writer, producer, so many projects. Yes.
Graveyard of failed projects. So for me, I'm like, the fact that we're even like, this movie is going to come out in a couple weeks. And at this point, I actually believe it's going to happen. Like, I'm like, okay. But if you had asked me a couple months ago, I would have been like, I don't know. Like,
well, obviously, and also with the writer's strike and COVID and movie theaters and all that stuff, that really probably changed the normal plan of things.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, I can't, or even just when Jagged Little Pill opened on Broadway, it was a culmination of years of work, and we had to shut down like 2 months later because of COVID.
I think that was the last time I saw you. We were in like a Newport airport.
I saw you at the airport.
A New York airport. Yeah, you were coming back from that or whatever. We were going.
Sucked.
And because how I always did not understand how you could have 3 kids and do your writing. And because so let's do a little bit background. So we met on Chelsea Lately. Were you a guest first?
Initially, I was a guest, yeah.
Okay, you're a guest.
Back when Chelsea wasn't booking like A-listers and she had to have Diablo Cody on her show. Yes.
And so what I also love is that then you like are such a pop culture, like you love all that stuff and you're fun to talk about it. So then you sort of became a regular on the show. You were sometimes on the round table and everything. And then your husband at the time, he was working on the show as an editor. And so then we were like would all hang out, and we went to Vegas together.
We went to Cabo.
Yes, Cabo is where we hung out at first.
It's just crazy that, that was like, Chelsea Lately was like our social life for years, and it was fun.
It really was. That is so true. It really was. And it really was fun. And wait, I'm just remembering something. You came to my house and I had some weird psychic.
I remember it well. That psychic told me I was going to have a daughter, and I never did. So that did stick with me.
That psychic is not good.
Oh, really? Did you also get a disappointing reading?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, nothing came true. And then also, she's read me like 5 times at different people's parties in LA, but like she doesn't really remember it. But I'm like, oh, and they're like, and we have a psychic. I'm like, we could pass. Like
Here's what I'll say though about that party, Heather.
Yeah.
The psychic reading may not have come true. However, you did gift me the best hairdryer that I have ever used in my life that I still use to this day.
God, I don't even know if you know what? I'm so bummed because I remember that whatever the PR person that I was working with gave everybody this, and I want to say I never got one.
It's a Rusk Speed Freak.
Do you remember what it's called?
It's called a Speed Freak.
Oh.
And it's the fastest blow dryer I've ever used, and it's still in my regular daily rotation. And I think of you when I use it. So thank you.
Oh my God, I love it. Now, you had a really interesting start to your writing career. Can you just tell us a little bit about that? You were a stripper.
I was also like many other things. I was like the queen of odd jobs. I was like stripping. I was doing phone sex. I was an insurance claims processor. So
you said you went to Catholic high school and grammar school?
Yeah, I went to Catholic school for 12 years.
Which is amazing. So then, and so when you finished that, did you not go to traditional college after that? Or
I did. I went to University of Iowa.
Okay.
I graduated. And then I graduated at like the perfect time because it was 2000. And there were so many jobs. And I moved to Chicago. I got an apartment. I had a nice job as like a secretary at an ad agency. And I was just like kind of doing my little 20-something thing, right?
Yeah.
And then I just had this feeling like I'm like I felt like this is tough to articulate, but it seemed like I had just done too linear and too perfect of a path.
All right, let's get into Traitors, episode 6. It has gotten so juicy. I'm really enjoying Kate Chastain. She's like, has all these little funny remarks, and it's gotten really, really good. So the 3 traitors, who are Dan, Phaedra, and Parvati, they decide they are going to give their letter of murder to Bergie because they believe that Peter and Trishelle have the shield because Peter told him that. So they go, let's kill Bergie. So now they go to breakfast and each person comes one by one. Oh my God, oh my God. And then they're like, I guess it was Bergie. I guess Bergie, got killed. And Phaedra, who killed him, was like, oh, not my Burgalicious. And then Bergie walks in and everyone's like, what? And of course, the traitors have to act like all, like not overly surprised, but kind of like, yay. And she's like, oh, thank Jesus, Burgalicious is still here. And they're like, how are you still here? And he's like, I have the shield. So then Peter the pilot's like, yeah, I'm telling you guys, it's Dan, CT, and Parvati that I had the shield and so did Trishelle. So don't you find it interesting that they picked Bergie? They're clearly the traitors. And Dan's like, I don't know why you're saying that. Yeah, you told me, but like, I'm not a traitor. Da, da, da. So then they have to go do their challenge, which is fun to watch. They have to throw this cannon and see who gets the closest. And Cherie gets the immunity. She gets the shield. So now they go back to the round table. The only person that's safe is Sheba Cherie from Atlanta. And Peter again says his thing. I think it's you, Dan. Maybe Parvati, but I really think it's you, Dan. But he was also really think it was Parvati. And meanwhile, Phaedra's just like, and then Dan goes, well, I've been watching this game and I've been quiet because I really think it's Phaedra. I think Phaedra's a traitor. I think, when she said, oh, Burgalicious acting like she's sad, when she was comforting Larsa acting like she cared. And then Kate Chastain is like, well, that's her friend and Larsa's boyfriend had just gotten murdered. So like, was that weird? Phaedra is like steaming. She's so pissed, but she can't reveal like, dude, we're both traitors. So then she just annihilates him, bringing up all the points which makes him look suspicious and her not. And everybody votes, and almost everybody votes for Dan. So, and the fact that he had won Big Brother and all this stuff. So he gets up and then he says, I was the traitor. So then when it ends, we see that it's now Parvati and Phaedra. And then Alan Cummings comes out and goes, you can do one of two things. You can kill somebody or you can invite somebody to come join your traitor. So you have the 3. So they decide to invite Peter the pilot to come join them. And he can either say yes or no. That's where the episode ends. And he's like, wow, this is really smart because if I say no, they'll probably just kill me anyway. But they want to take him because now he's like the leader of all the faithfuls and they want to break up that little group. So it's gotten so juicy, so good. You can watch new episodes every Thursday, only on Peacock. They drop at 9 Eastern and there's 6 episodes out now. So catch up and get into it. Now at that time, because you're always, you're so pretty.
Oh,
and you've always had like the black hair and the blue eyes, and you've always kind of have like the edgy fashion style. Kind of,
Yeah.
Like, were you like that then or not yet?
Not really.
Okay.
I kind of hadn't really figured out who I was.
Uh-huh.
And I met this guy online, and he lived in Minneapolis, and I went, I'm just going to move there to be with this guy, which is the kind of thing I do.
But wait, had you seen him before you moved?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were like had a little long distance thing going.
We had a little long distance
Okay.
thing going. Which, by the way, at the time, it was quite unusual to meet someone on the internet. So everybody
Right, I
thought I
was
was
just
going to get
thinking.
murdered.
Yeah.
But it was.
Well, guess what? You still can get
Yeah,
murdered.
you can. You
That's
can.
never gone out
But
of
I mean,
style.
people were shocked.
Yes.
Like, what? You met him online? I did.
Right.
Moved to Minneapolis, and when I got there, I had thought, like, oh, this is crazy. Nobody knows who I am. Like, I could just do whatever I want to do. I don't have to. And I walked into a strip club, and I said, I'm going to start working here.
And were you right to stripping, or you were a waitress first?
No,
or
I
what?
went right to it. I took my clothes off that night.
A complete?
Yeah.
Like complete badge
No,
out.
actually,
Oh,
that was the first club I went to was topless only.
Okay.
But I was down to like a thong,
Okay.
which is sorry for the visual. I was
Yeah.
cute then.
Yeah.
But it
cute.
was.
You're
I'm just
still
saying, no one
beautiful.
wants to see me in a thong now. At the time, I'm sure it was adorable.
Okay.
And then I made a little bit of money. I was never one of those strippers that brings home like thousands of dollars a night and
so
has
now
tons
you
of
were
regulars.
one of those. Were you one of those strippers that knew how to? Yeah. So you weren't one of those that could get a regular and make them think that you loved them.
I'm
and
so bad
get
at
So
that.
much. That is like such an art.
It is. People do not realize it is sales.
Yes.
And the girls who are the top sellers are absolute geniuses. Like, they should be in a different field, because if you have the ability to convince people that you actually have an emotional attachment to them while they are paying you for your time, you're a genius.
And all you have to do is just go like this, right? On their
It's
on their
more than
app.
that.
Like you just have to do what I'm saying sexually. You don't have to do that.
You don't have to do much. And the
Right.
girls who made the most money were never the prettiest,
Mm.
and they were never had the best bodies, and it was 100% like intellectual, cerebral, emotional intelligence.
Wow. Okay, so you just were like,
I was
not-
like, whatever.
okay,
Like,
yeah.
I was having fun, and I
And
also
did you make friends with the girls? Were the girls nice, or was it weird and competitive?
No, some of them were nice. Like, the problem was that kind of environment, similar to the Playboy Mansion, if you've ever talked to the girls that came out of that system.
I've talked to all of them.
That
yeah.
environment just fosters like competition and
Right.
negativity. I wanted it to be like a sorority house pajama
Yeah.
party, but like most people were not very trusting, and you can't blame them.
Right. Yeah, because there's some people have a story, but you didn't have a story. You weren't that girl that
And
had
I
nothing going on.
I
You-
recognize that now. At the time, I think I didn't recognize my own privilege, to be honest.
Okay.
And now I'm like, oh my God, like I had a college degree,
Yeah.
like I had a supportive family, and I wasn't an addict. There were so many women in that situation that didn't have what I had.
Right. Right. That go about life differently, and they have
Yeah.
to be a little bit cutthroat
Absolutely.
because people were not looking out for them when they were young. They gotta
No.
look out for themselves. Yeah. And so is this when you started your like Tumblr account or whatever? Wasn't that it? Like you started to,
Yeah.
to blog about it.
This was pre-Tumblr, actually.
Okay.
I actually had to build my own blog I had to take an HTML class.
Okay.
So I took an HTML and JavaScript class so I could code my blog. That's how long ago this was. And then I started it's funny because initially I was just writing about my stupid day and my stupid hobbies. And of course, 4 people are reading it.
Right.
The day I started writing about stripping, all of a sudden I have readers.
yeah.
Like all of a sudden the hits are piling up. And I went, okay, I guess this is the shtick.
right.
Sex sells. I'm just going to write about stripping. And so that's what I did.
And it's so interesting too, because with like influencers now, and you sometimes hear that and all of a sudden someone blows up and they're like, I've been on TikTok for 2 years doing cooking videos or whatever. But then one day I talked about whatever, my narcissistic mom, and it, went crazy. So like sometimes you just don't know what the thing is. And you're like, well, yeah, this is interesting to people. And it's interesting because it's the way I tell it.
I mean, it is. And I admit it's kind of a cheap hook. I mean, literally, the reason I'm talking to you right now, the reason as a screenwriter, they're sending me out to promote this movie, which usually they don't do with writers,
Yeah.
is because of all that like wacky stripping shit I did back in the day.
So you
Like that was how people found out who I was.
So what was it? Didn't an agent somehow come across it?
So my manager that I'm still with,
manager.
20
Okay.
years later.
And I love when someone can be with someone for that long.
Well, we produce together
only a few
now.
people are lucky enough, But then you see that a lot of successful people, are ones that were able to find that great person. It's like, finding the perfect marriage or whatever, because they're the ones that when they get their thing, they're like, we've been working together for 30 years. You're like, oh my God, there's so few people that can say that in this business, that has found that one person and stuck with them.
Heather, I was so lucky. I'm still with my original manager, agent, and attorney, and I was my agent's first client. I mean, we're still, I have I really found the right people right off the bat, and that's such a huge part of what I've been able to do.
So this person reaches out to you.
He reaches out to me over email because I had an email link on my blog. And he was just like, I'm a Hollywood person. I'm a Hollywood manager. And I think you have a voice for screenwriting. You should try writing a script. And I was like, this guy's full of shit. Who is, can I swear?
Yeah.
I was like, who is this dude? This has to be fake.
Right.
So I Googled him and I saw he had just I guess Google was there.
Yeah.
I looked him up on a search engine. And he had just worked on a movie with Wes Craven, and I'm a huge horror fan. And I was like, oh my God, this is a legit person. I can't believe it.
Right.
So I said, okay. I said, I'll try writing a screenplay. And I just bought some screenplays at Barnes & Noble and read them. And I went, okay, I think I'll just try it. And that was the beginning.
And what was the first screenplay you wrote?
Juno.
Oh, that was the very first one. And how did you get the idea for that?
I don't know. I think here's what I remember, because it was a long time ago. I remember I was sitting at my little kitchen table in Minnesota, and I was thinking to myself, I want to write a movie about a relationship that exists in the world, but you don't see movies about it. And I was thinking about what a strange dynamic it must be for a couple to meet the person that is carrying the child they're going to adopt. And I went, all right. So I wrote the first scene of the movie that I wrote was when the couple meet Juno.
Right.
And it was at the time I didn't know what I was doing. So the scene was 17 pages long. I think in the movie it's probably 2 or 3 minutes.
Right.
But I remember after writing it, I was like, okay, I think I know who these people are. And then I started from the beginning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because, it was such a great movie. We loved, and of course, you got so blessed with the actors that were chosen. Jason Bateman and wait, who was the wife? Jennifer Garner. And she was great. Her way of being so earnest and pure was just perfect, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, everything about it was just, but then there were the twists. So the twist of the Jason Bateman character not being so great.
No. And he was.
And that, when did you decide? Did you know from before you sat down did you know this was going to be the beginning, the middle, and the end before you ever started? Or were you just starting to go and it led you to these?
It's funny. At the time, I think I really was writing on gut instinct. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I knew exactly what was going to happen. Now I'm really different now. Especially because I have to be much more economical with my time.
Yeah, with 3 sons.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just so now everything's outlined, everything's planned. I know exactly what scene is going to come next. And also at the time, I had no education in screenwriting or storytelling, so I knew I had to have 3 acts.
Yeah,
and so I think I knew how each act was going to end, but that was it.
So you're writing the script. Are you still stripping?
At the time, I was, and then for most of Juno, I was working at an insurance company because I remember sitting at my little computer and switching over to Juno when I was on my lunch break.
Oh, okay. And then, and you're still with the guy?
Yeah, I was still with my first husband. I've now been married twice.
Okay.
But I was still with my first husband at the time. Yeah.
And he knows you're writing the script, and he's like, this is amazing, or what was his thoughts?
He was super supportive.
Yeah.
He was reading it as I went, and he was like, this is really good, right? And I was like, of course you're going to say that, but he was like, no. He's like, I actually think this is a good movie.
So then when you send it over to the manager person.
Yeah.
And how quickly did he get back and was like?
No, see, this is what I love about Mason. He is the most blasé person. He has never, ever, in all the years that I've known him, he's never blown any smoke up my ass. He is just very yeah, let's see. I remember even in the beginning, before I even wrote the script, he said to me, he's like, look, you really don't have to be very good at this. He's like, because I have a pile of scripts on my desk and most of them are bad. So you just have to be a little bit better than these bad scripts. And he's like, I think you can do that. You seem maybe kind of talented. He was never right. Hollywood about it. He was very, and he still isn't like that. So he read it and he was like, look, let's see what we can do with this. he didn't, he wasn't. I should ask him about it now because maybe he did love it, but he didn't let on that he did. And then one day I was at work and he was just calling me over and over, and I was like, oh my God. And then he told me.
You're still at the insurance thing, typing away, doing
So
everything.
at that point,
yeah.
I was always bouncing from job to job, and I still would be if I hadn't landed here.
Right.
At that point, I was working at a local paper. I actually had a paid writing job at that point. And he called me at the paper while I was in a staff meeting. And I was like, I can hear my phone ringing in the hallway. And I'm like, I'm just going to go get that. And he's like, pick up. Like, I have the best news. And it turned out that someone wanted to make the movie. So.
And so then from there, how quickly do you and your first husband move to LA?
I moved to LA. I mean, that was like, I can't talk about that
but
breakup.
That's
but
when you were like, okay, I think this relationship has run its course.
Well, there was a lot going on, but it was, I wound up moving to Los Angeles. Yes.
So then, I mean, when the movie hits, you get nominated for original screenplay.
Yeah.
And where were you when you found out you were nominated? Because Chris was on yesterday. Not yesterday, but whenever this aired. So, last week. Chris Frangiola was on and we talked about the Oscars.
Oh, Chris Frangiola was here?
Yeah. We talked about the Oscars. And I always remember people would say that story of like, some people I think would lie and be like, oh, the phone rang at 5 a.m. and I thought someone died.
Oh, I hate that when I hate when people act like they didn't know the nominations were that day. It's like, come on, you were sitting up and you know it. No, I was actually, I was scheduled. This is like.
Did you know it was a possibility? Yes.
Yeah, totally. Because
all the other things.
I had been nominated for everything leading up to it. So I was like, I knew I was going to get nominated. Like, I wish I could be like, I was shocked. I knew it. But I was sitting in a hotel because I was going to be on Letterman that night because I think they also knew I was going to get nominated. So they were like, this will work. And I had a friend with me and they announced the nominations and we did the weirdest thing. We ran out of the hotel. We ran down the street to the Gap.
Yeah.
We burst into the Gap. And then my friend yelled, she got nominated for an Oscar. I'm going to buy her a sweater, and bought me a green sweater.
Just because?
Yes. So I have a green sweater that is my souvenir of that day.
And you kept it.
Yeah.
And okay, so you get nominated, and I remember what you wore. You wore a leopard dress.
Yeah, that they picked out for me. I mean, at the time, it was like just this whirlwind of like, here's what you're gonna wear.
What do you mean? You didn't get to pick it out?
I mean, I sort of did. The studio hired a stylist for me, which I've never had a stylist since then, which you can probably tell. But I was like. And it was like, like a fancy it was like Jessica Simpson's stylist. Like, I was like, what is going on? And at the time, Heather, in 2007, 2008, they did not know how to dress anyone that was not the sample size. Like,
true.
And no designer would dress anyone that was not the sample size.
Yeah.
So it was a challenge. Like, they were just like, here is a muumuu. But, that was a leopard Dior dress. I still have that.
I actually thought it was really great.
Thank you. No, I loved wearing it too. I just remember at the time, everyone was like, that is so ugly.
You mean like critics? Well, that's back when that's Fashion Police time where people would say awful stuff. And,
that was the time. It was like snark was like the thing.
It was a Chelsea Lately time.
No, I was literally going to say, and we were part of it.
I know, I'm always like, oh my God.
We said such.
God, the amount of things that I'm just like.
Dan and I sometimes talk about how problematic some of the content on that show was. For now.
I'm like, when it, I remember with the YouTube, like it was like they had like a fan post. It was a fake fan. It was one of the editors would post on this YouTube. And that is like how I kind of became better known is I did this video where I was Heidi of Spencer and Heidi, and we went to the beach and we did this whole thing, and we mocked their music video. Now I'm very good friends with both of them, and they're still married, and they're like,
I love them.
Yes, they're like 2 kids and all the whole thing. But that got millions of views on YouTube, and then E was kind of like, oh, we don't want people posting it till after. Whatever it airs, and then so then they controlled it. Nobody could post anything but that, which was fine. But then when the show ended, I think they were mad at Chelsea and they took it all down. And at first, I was like, I can't believe it. Now I'm like, thank God.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
I'm like, oh my God, please. And there's still some like hate groups that will bring up stuff that I do. I'm like,
No,
what do
there
you
was
want?
that was
what
some
do you want?
No,
like,
it's good that it's scrubbed.
Yeah, I mean, it's there. I did it. We did it.
Yeah.
It happened. What do you want from me? Like it exists. People grow and change. That's the whole point. I'm not doing it today.
Yeah.
So
well, that's always
Yeah.
the point that I'm making is like, I don't understand. Like, I think it's a wonderful thing when people change
Yeah.
and grow and educate themselves.
Yes.
So for me, it's like, I don't quite understand sometimes I understand call out culture. I get it. And it's necessary.
Yeah.
And cancel culture is necessary in some situations too. Goodbye,
Yeah.
Harvey. But like,
Yes.
I think if somebody has shown a willingness to change and like an
Right.
actual growth, like that's a good thing.
So I was talking to one of my old sorority sisters, and we were laughing so hard because she was telling me a story that her mother told her about she and her sister that reminded her so much of her own daughters, and she'd never heard the story before. And that's what I said, have you heard about Storyworth? Storyworth is an online service that helps you and your loved ones connect through sharing stories and memories and preserves them for years to come. I absolutely love this. I wish this was around when my parents were still on Earth. This is how it works. Every week, Storyworth emails your loved one a thought-provoking question of your choice from a vast pool of possible options. Each unique prompt asks questions you've never thought of, like, what is one of your fondest childhood memories? Or what is the best advice you've ever received? That's such an important one. After 1 year, Storyworth compiles all those questions and stories, including photos, into a beautiful keepsake book that the whole family can share for generations. We were just looking at the one that we did for my mother-in-law, and my sons were dying laughing at one of the stories. We are definitely going to make this a holiday tradition where we get out the Storyworth and look at it and reminisce. It's so important to do that, especially in her presence. Get to know your loved ones better and preserve those special moments forever with Storyworth. Right now, for a limited time, you can save $10 on your first purchase when you go to storyworth.com/juicy. That's story, STORY, worth, WORTH.com/juicy to save $10 on your first purchase. Storyworth.com/juicy. Speaking of Harvey Weinstein, had you ever heard any rumblings before it all came to fruition?
Everyone had.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Everybody knew. That's what's so crazy about that situation. And so many of those situations where it was like, no one is surprised to hear that, Scott Rudin's abusive or like, it's like people just knew that.
But did you ever have any opportunity to work with him in which you'd have to make a decision of
No,
yes or no?
I never was cornered by Harvey. I never worked with him.
But what if you had been approached to work on something?
To work on something?
Something, not where you had to go meet him at the peninsula, but having heard rumors and stuff, do you honestly think that would have ever made you go, you know what, can we look for a different film?
I'm going to be honest with you.
Right.
At the time.
I love that you're honest. I would think I can see
would have
why
done
people
it,
did.
and so did many other people.
Yeah.
I probably would have said like, okay, I'll be careful. I wouldn't have been thinking about the fact that I don't want this monster to continue to profit. Like,
yes.
And now I would feel differently. But at the time I had tunnel vision and was very self-centered.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that when it's Hollywood and you don't want to turn down any opportunity and you think that opportunity may not come around again. And so you can, put the blinders on or compartmentalize or whatever it takes to be like, yeah, exactly that. And then in retrospect, you're like, yeah, I'm always waiting for someone to come out. And I've said this so many times and be like, look, I did sleep with these people to get apart because I knew that was the only way to get me in front. And then guess what? Everyone saw how great I was. And then I never had to sleep with creeps again. But I would love it if some actress who I know is walking on this earth still today could just be really honest about her story.
Heather, this is like the exact, like I sent this whole TED Talk to my group chat at one point where I said the same thing.
Oh, really?
I said, the people we are not hearing from are the people who willingly slept with people as a transaction to get ahead.
Right.
They exist. Why is nobody talking about it? Because I actually think that's an important story to share.
And I actually think
if I had, I would tell you.
And I thank you. And I also think that's being a feminist too. That's being like, I was smart enough to know that I was not going to get that part the legit way.
Yeah.
And I knew the guy was here and I knew what I had to do. And I said, just give me this part. And I fucking killed that small part. And from there, I never had to suck another dick. Like, just say it. Like, just.
I mean,
it would be so interesting. And I think it would be empowering empowering. And also, I think it would, women had to do stuff we didn't want to do, but we were smart enough to be like, I'm going to count to whatever, hold my breath and get through
real.
it and know that I just need people to see me, and they're not going to see me because my parents aren't famous or whatever, you know?
That's the thing. I mean, that's why I've always fully acknowledged the fact that the reason that I got to become like a screenwriter with a face, a recognizable screenwriter, which there are not that many of us, is because I did like sexy stuff. Like at the time, that was how I got my foot in the door.
And I mean, I also just think, yes, you're a female, you're unique, and you were young.
Yeah.
How young were you when you got nominated?
I wasn't that young. I was 29.
So that's pretty, you know.
Yeah, I know.
It's
but
unusual.
I was like,
It's still somewhat unusual, right?
Yeah.
And also that you were like hip and you had like a, you know, an edgy style. And I think that was just something that was fun to see. It was, you know, it all fit and it was cool.
And at the time, it was. It's funny looking back because I feel like this new generation of public figures are able to really express themselves and talk about their sexuality and their this and it's like it must be so fun.
Right.
It must be so fun to just be like, yeah, I'm queer, I'm this, I'm that. You know, it's like, and at the time, it was just like me having tattoos was wild.
It was
like,
wild.
Yeah.
It was like,
oh my God. It was like people
yes.
thought it was the craziest thing. And I'm like, I don't know. It was
like, how does this tattoo girl know how to write?
I know. It was honestly, that was really like the dialogue around me. It was like a stripper with tattoos who's literate.
Yeah.
And it's just like so ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. So we started to have fun. You started to become such a personality, and you had some other. I remember you had your red trailer. What did you have?
I had a Red Band trailer. Thank you for bringing this up. This is like nobody talks about this.
You had your own talk show.
I had a little YouTube talk show.
Okay.
But in my Airstream trailer, and interviewed celebs, and it was fun.
And how does it? I mean, do you? What was it like to kind of go from being the writer, then kind of being your own famous person? You know, where you were like a famous person, and recognizable, and going back to sort of being more the writer, you know, have you directed as well?
I directed once and I didn't like it.
Oh, okay. But the writer creator, you know, do you get recognized as you walk
No.
around?
Oh my God. No,
okay.
No. And that's honestly like, I prefer it that way.
Uh-huh.
To me,
so you don't miss any of that.
No, absolutely not. And like, I avoid it honestly, because when you're in the Academy, you were asking me before we began, you said, do you get invited to the Oscars? The answer is no. However, I do, because I'm in the voting body, get invited to these crazy parties every year where it's like, you know, fancy A-lister type parties, but I never go to any of them. I haven't been to one in years because I realized from that whole experience you're talking about that I'm not comfortable being a public figure. Like, and I'm not comfortable in like celebrity circles, and I just like being in the Valley with my dirty kids. That's what I like.
It's too much to get all dressed up and go. It's like stressful for you.
It's
not fun.
I find it incredibly stressful.
Okay.
I guess like sometimes I think to myself, and you should just get back out there. And I'm like, I don't know.
I think it's good to recognize, you know, at a certain point, like, no, it's not my vibe.
It's not my vibe.
Just like the girl that pretends like she's into camping with her boyfriend. And she's
That's
not
what
into
I was
fucking
doing.
into camping.
I literally had to pretend that I was into getting dressed up and like into like being
schmoozing.
Yeah, and it's not. I just don't like it. Yeah,
I like it.
Do you? That's great.
You ever decide you want to go to something again?
And bring you? Yeah.
Well, I got invited to your other premiere. That's actually one of the times I saw you in the last few years. I'm sorry that I don't remember the name, but it was the movie about the mom suffering from postpartum.
Tully. Oh, yeah, you were there. Tully.
Wait, how do you
Tully.
Oh, that's it. That's a really good movie.
Thank you.
That was a really juicy movie with a twist. And knowing that you were a mom of 3, was that at all your story?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
You suffered from postpartum?
I did. And it's funny because the first couple of times it didn't happen. And then I had Nico, and I was
That's your baby?
Yeah, my baby, who's 8 now. I'm making it sound like it's his fault. I'm like, and then Nico came and fucked no, he's
Well, also a third, I'm just thinking you have more going on with you have two other ones you have to watch, so I just think every situation is different, which is why birth order is something I find fascinating.
same.
Because you can have the same parents, you could have been raised in the same neighborhood, the same home, and you're going to have a totally different experience than maybe your sibling who's 6 years older
100%.
or younger. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, like I bit off more than I could chew with 3 kids.
I couldn't believe you had a third.
Yeah, me neither. It was because that psychic told me I was going to have a girl. And I was like, oh, here she comes. Is this all your fault?
I think this is all my fault, but you have a perfect Nico now.
No, I'm just kidding. No, Nico's incredible, and he's also so necessary to the dynamic of our family. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
how every person,
yeah.
he needs to be there, and he's awesome. But like at the time, I definitely bit off more than I could chew.
And how did you suffer from it? Did you know this is what was happening to you?
No, that's the thing. I think it's really hard to see. And I didn't realize what was going on until I went to Nico was a few weeks old, and I briefly ducked out of the house to see a friend. And she immediately saw that it was the same friend that bought me the sweater, actually.
Oh, so she knows you well.
Yeah. And Dana, she saw that I was suffering. And she said, you need help. I'm going to help you. And she's one of those very connected people that makes a phone call and makes things happen. And she made a phone call, and that night there's this knock on my door, and it's this baby nurse, which I'd never had like one of those night nannies.
I never did either. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just
by the way, I'm like, if you can afford it, or if you're looking to give someone a gift,
oh my God,
or something
life changing,
even if it can be like every other night they come or something, I think that is so great.
And I had been so like, not snobby about it, but it's like, that you meet people in this business where it's like their entire parenting experience is outsourced.
Yes. And you're like, I'm not going to be that
I don't want to be that person. And so I'd always been really like, no, I sit up with my babies every night. And I did it with Marcello. I did it with Rocco. Nico, I wasn't even able to parent the other two during the day because I was like so depressed, so tired. And then this angel shows up, and suddenly I just handed her the baby and I went to sleep. And Tully, that was based on this experience of like, what if somebody could just help you?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was I think it was great.
So that was a wild time.
So now you've got these 3 boys, they're older, you're divorced. Are you dating?
Yeah, I've had a boyfriend for almost 3.5 years we've been together.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah.
And everybody gets along. I love that.
I'm not going to knock the table because I've been advised not to do that, but usually I'm a wood knocker.
Yes.
And I am very, very fortunate for the extended sort of blended family unit that I have going on.
I love that. That is so nice because it's so rare. It's more rare than normal.
It is. I wish it was less rare because it really is nice when it works, especially for the kids.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Oscars. What did you think of the Barbie snub?
Well, here's the thing. Like, if you told me I could write a movie that would make $1 billion worldwide, but you said I had to trade in my Oscar for that, I would do it so fast that you don't like. I'm saying Barbie already won in my book because I think that to me, having a movie that is that powerful, that successful, like a topic of conversation for like a freaking year, like
I think
that's better than an Oscar nomination. Plus, Margot and Greta both got nominated
as producers.
They got nominated as producers. Greta got nominated for writing. And like, I think she deserved to be nominated for Best Director. And I think Margot should have been nominated for Best Actress. But they're fine.
Well, I think I like to make lemonade out of lemons often. And I think it's like poetic justice. It's almost like a gift that they got a little snubbed. Because it was like, yeah, this is what it is. This is what the movie is about.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's
almost perfect. Like, had they
It's part of their marketing campaign to get snubbed.
Almost like, it literally almost like works people to be more behind the movie and more like, girl, that next movie is going to even be bigger and better. And you're right. They still get to go. They still get the accolades and all of that. But the other thing I was going to say, but you do get to vote, right? As a winner, you get to vote, or you don't?
I get to vote in the writers' branch.
Oh, okay.
So
you only get to vote. You only get to vote for the writing.
I don't get to vote for Best Director. No,
I don't.
I do. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I did not vote this year because I didn't see everything, and also I'm late on my dues. Like I'm not eligible to vote right now, and I just got to be real.
So how does it work? Who does the nomination? How many people are in charge of nominating who these 5 people are? Do you know that answer?
I know. No, I don't.
Where is your Oscar?
It's so I
Do
have.
you even deserve to have this, knowing no answers? No, just kidding. Where is it?
I mean, the answer is no.
Yeah.
So I have my Oscar and my Tony, which are because I'm hoping to build the EGOT eventually.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I don't know if that will happen. It rarely does. I have them out on just like a nice little sort of console table in my living room. But
you've had television series.
I have, but I've never won an Emmy or anything.
But you could.
I could try.
Now we liked. You're still a fan of The Bachelor.
Yes.
Always was. Always
there's
will.
certain seasons I've skipped.
Wasn't there also a Bachelor like after show that you were on?
I was
like
on.
You and Kris Jenner were on it all the time, and it was like
yes. I used to be like a more committed member of Bachelor Nation. I would do like the after shows and stuff, but
me
like
too.
it's
I used
been
to
a while.
cover it on Juicy Scoop and everything, and I did sort of start to lose. You know what? I think I much like Chris Harrison got a little. You know, I mean, there's a reason why he got the boot, which is stupid. But like, when it happened, I was like, well, he's a little old. He's no longer the wingman. Like when it started a million years ago, he was the same age as that first Michael Michelle or whatever his name was.
Alex Michelle.
The
first Bachelor.
They were like buddies. Like it was the same age. And then I was like, you know, as time goes on, I think that the host should be because it was like he'd come out there towards the end and the girls would have no makeup on and they look like they're about 12, you know, even though they're like 22 or something. And he'd be like, so girls, overnights are tomorrow. And I was I was just kind of like, okay, maybe this is a little. So I think, you know, I think, and I was just on Caitlin Bristow's show.
Am I too old to be on this? Is that what you're saying?
No,
okay.
I think that I'll tell you really quite honestly, they stopped having douchey frat guys on, and that's my type. And I stopped being attracted. They were too like artsy fartsy for me. And I liked a douchey frat. And then also I think they're just too young. Like now I'm just like, oh my God. Like 24, 25 is like, there were times when The Bachelor was like 35 and like owned bars. Remember that one guy? Like they were a little bit older.
That's why I love Nick Viles, because he was always like the older dude in the group. Yeah.
And sometimes they had money. Now it's just like you're the runner up. So it was like originally it was like they picked that Bachelor Alex Michelle because he had money and everything. But
now it's just who was the fan favorite from the prior season.
He never got married. I don't think.
I didn't know that.
Someone could probably correct me.
So he truly he manifested being the Bachelor.
I think so. I always thought he seemed kind of gay, but not that matters. But I don't know. I mean, certainly would have come out now. I mean, the other guy did come out.
He did.
And got married.
Yeah, well, I just watched the premiere of the new season of The Bachelor the other night, and I have to say it skews incredibly young this season because The Bachelor himself's in his 20s.
And
the girls are like 23, 24.
Yes, it's all too young for me.
Yeah.
So when I did the show, I was Katie. It was a bachelorette, and I was facilitating a date. And
I remember this.
And I was just like, these guys were just there was, you know, of course I was only like into talking to like one of them that was like turned out to be the biggest dick, but like he was like dark haired and darker skin. I don't know. And I can't remember his name, but he was really tall and he was really like charming. Like I was helping him with like his skit or whatever. And he was like I was feeling it.
Yeah.
I was feeling it. And I was like, okay. But I do think that, yeah, I just sort of, but I could get back into it. And then I started to watch The Bachelor, The Golden Bachelor. And then I came across this guy on TikTok that did such a good impression of Jerry.
I saw him. It's incredible.
God. And he was like, oh, you make me feel so special. That's so special. I was just dying laughing.
No, that is a solid impression that he has.
Do you think that Jerry was into Teresa, you perked up when you
No,
realized
yes.
how much money she had.
It was so obvious. I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to talk trash about them. I wish them all the happiness in
because
the
they
world.
are now married,
But
right?
it was so obvious to me that his whole vibe changed when he found out that she was successful.
And lived in North Carolina and had her home. And
Well,
all
they
this
always
stuff.
say old guys want a nurse and a purse.
Oh.
That's the saying. They want
No.
a woman who can take care of him as he ages and money.
Okay, I've heard that expression, but I've heard it differently.
What have
I've
you
heard a
heard?
woman say, I don't want to be a nurse or a purse. I don't want to be a nurse for an old fart, and I don't want to be a purse for a young buck.
Oh, we'll see. You could also wind up being a nurse and a purse to an old guy, which would be the worst of both worlds.
Right.
I'm happy to be a purse for a hot young man. No,
I know my friend's mother, who was incredible looking. She was, not a stranger to the plastic surgery, but she was always petite, always had like a nice ass and like just really good body. Anyway, she meets this guy at the gym and he keeps asking her out. And she's like, do you know how old I am? And he is like 52 and she's like 70. And he was like, aren't you like 52 or something? Like, aren't you like my age? And she's like, no. And he won't stop. And she's got grandkids and she's married and everything. And so they get married. And he goes on a bike ride and he gets in an accident. And
so now she
was the nurse in the purse.
Interesting.
And then when he recovered, then they got divorced.
I mean, those are scary stories.
Well, you never know. I'm saying everyone
you
thought,
don't know.
oh my God, how is he going to marry this woman and she's going to be in a wheelchair? And it was like, no, it's the opposite. So you never know. Like, there's no guarantee of like marrying someone old and rich or marrying someone rich, they're going to stay rich, or marrying someone
There's
young
no
that she's going to
guarantees,
stay
period.
hot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's no, so
That's
if you
why it's
like
always crazy.
someone, you like someone, just be happy that you guys have something to talk about at dinner.
I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
And I also feel the same way when people are like, how can someone have a baby when they're 45? Because they're going to, and it's like, you don't know what's going to happen to anyone.
Right.
Like, you could have a baby when you're 21 and something bad can happen. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, we have no clue what happens in life. So like, let's just roll the dice and
or
have
when
fun.
someone's like I saw this girl, like, and she was like, I'm an old mom or whatever. And she's holding a baby. She's like, I'm going to be at a high school graduation at 60. So what?
Who cares? That's what I
Like
would say. It's
60, like is 60 old? 60's not old if you take care of yourself. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You could be at a high school graduation at 60. That is not, you could be at a high school graduation for your 18-year-old when you're 70. It's not.
This is what I say.
Yeah.
Because like, obviously I have no dog. I'm done having children. So this
Right.
is not me personally. But when
Right.
I have friends who are my age or older and are like, I'm like, yeah, why not?
Yeah, like exactly.
It's kind of chic, to be honest. It's like a celebrity thing to do.
And then when people are like, oh, but look at the world today. I'm always like, the world's been shit forever.
yeah.
I'm like, people are still having babies during World War II. People are having babies after Vietnam. People are having babies when there was no gas.
Yeah.
And I mean, my mom said she was at the grocery store with 5 kids, and this woman walked up to her and said, how dare you overpopulate the world like this?
I mean,
And that's what people thought. People thought we were going to be overpopulated. That people like my mom, having 5 kids was like ruining the environment.
there's a lot of people who still feel
Imagine
that
if there
way.
was no Heather.
Look, as long as you don't have a private jet, you're fine. I know. Imagine exactly.
No, but it's like, it's just so dumb. So I'm like, no, if your desire on this earth is to be a mother or a father, go for it. Whatever means it takes. That's
Yeah.
your right.
That's. I
Don't think about that the world is ending and you just go be friends with Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg and swim down into the cave, live in.
yeah, I need to live in Mark Zuckerberg's bunker that he's building in Hawaii.
Make some friends with that lady. Try to
Oh
find
my
out what.
God.
Yeah, what
I need to
school
figure
are
that
they at?
out.
Yeah,
No,
what
what's
school?
going-
Hi, want to work on the committee together? Okay, so you started to watch The Bachelor, and are you into it?
I'm into it, but it is harder to relate to. I keep getting older. They keep getting younger.
Did you like The Golden Bachelor? I got a little bored. You
okay,
loved it?
so
Okay.
I do think it fell off a little bit as the
Mhm.
season went on, but I did love it, and the reason I loved it is
Yes.
because it was the first time in many years that we had seen a cast of people who weren't all trying to become influencers, who weren't like they were truly looking for companionship. So there was a sincerity to it that you don't see with the younger folks.
And what I loved is the women like really kind of became friends and everything. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. Like you guys all have, You're all older, but you're still fit. Like, you could all go to Europe together. Go to the
That's-
Amalfi Coast this summer. You found a bunch of women that are single. That's like a dream come true.
I said before the show aired, I said I would not be surprised if a group of the women wind up just walking off together.
Yeah.
Because these are older women who are like, no bullshit.
Right.
Like, are not going to like stand for shit. And like, they're all going to like each other and they're all going to be like, you know what? Fuck this guy.
Yeah, like who cares?
I'm surprised it didn't happen.
And then did they ever say, is there going to be a golden bachelorette?
So here's the thing.
You have some inside scoop?
I wish I had like the full like Mike Fly scoop, but like
Yeah.
they're trying to, but it's difficult to find a bunch of guys that aren't like because
The nurse of the purse.
the nurse of the purse, or like
Yeah.
honestly, a lot of old dudes who are like great on paper want to be with like way
Yeah.
younger women,
Totally.
which is sad, but reality.
I kind of think you gotta you gotta do it a little bit all around. Like you did it they had to be over 60 because I guess somebody I know, my friend who lives in Phoenix, she had a friend who went out for it, and according to her, they said no, the women have to be over 60, at least 60 for the Golden Bachelor because he was
Yeah.
72, so they didn't want women in their 50s. But I think you do it more like the 55-ish range. Because then if you find like a woman who is like maybe 55, but like fit and her kids are grown and everything, then she could skew both ways.
Oh, right. So we could have older guys
Like
and
if
younger
she's
guys.
like a young, youthful 55 and she's banging, which there's tons of them around. I mean, I'm not too far off. And so I'm like, there's tons of them around. They exist.
Yeah.
So she could date like a guy who's like 65, but she could also date like a 48-year-old and it would not be weird.
It's a good idea, but here's what I'll tell you. The discourse around this would be so negative because people would go, how come the Golden Bachelor gets to be 72 or however old Gary is?
Right.
But why does the Golden Bachelorette have to be 55?
We need to call it something not the Golden Bachelorette. We need to create, you know how there's like cougars.
Yeah,
and
like a cougar.
There was cougars and there's pumas. Like there's got to be a name. I guess it's gray cougar, which
Is that
doesn't
what it
sound
is?
good. Gray puma, no. But yeah, you're right. It's a hard thing, and who cares? What do you think of Travis and Taylor? Do you think they're going to get married?
I do. I have been calling this from the beginning. I think
So have I.
Because first of all, like she's at that exact stage of her 30s where you're just
Perfect.
like, let's do this.
Exactly.
I think that she is first. I am a Swiftie.
Yeah, who isn't? She's
Yes,
great.
who isn't? I
Loves
love them
her mom.
together.
She's a good friend.
But she's
Yeah.
getting to like cosplay as a normie in a way that I think is thrilling for her. Like she's hanging out in
Yes.
Kansas City with like people and like do you know what I mean? Like she's just like getting to have an experience that I don't think she got to have because she spent her teens building this career.
Yeah.
And I think now she's getting to be the like girlfriend at the stands with like the football player boy. I just think it's like I think she's happy.
Now, I followed Taylor's career as well. I like her music just like anybody else, but I'm not hardcore Swiftie. But what I love about Taylor is so much. But, she's a super talented, good girl, thanking her mother when she won her first award. But she's kind of a geek. Let's just, in the expression, she's
Yeah, for sure.
kind of a geek. But she was a talented, pretty geek. So the people around her when she was coming up in high school were fucking assholes to her. They were really mean and they mocked her because they were jealous bitches. And she kind of knew that. And there's some classics, there's some urban myth story or something where like she knew it and she like invited everybody to something. Like she knew that these people in high school were like dicks about it, even though she was like on and winning and everything. So then now after the Kanye thing that really fucked with her brain and everything and really like everyone hated her and Kim made it seem like she lied when she didn't. And she was like, I have the proof and everything. And she went away for a year and then she comes back stronger than ever. And everybody just realizes that like she totally is a girl who supports women, isn't jealous, is a heart, like has her girls with her, celebrates women, gives them a way for them to shine too. Like she's just so great. And yeah, now she gets to be with this cute, normal guy who has, that everyone likes, who's super talented. And And I said the same thing as you. Like, I think she's kind of pragmatic and like, this is my time is appropriate time, age-wise, to get married and have kids and stuff.
Yeah.
And I will be heartbroken if it doesn't happen.
So my theory,
Yes.
because I really think about this a lot.
Who does
So she's playing, I'm probably going to ruin it now. I hope
Say
they
it.
don't see this.
We do predictions all the time. Your predictions can win.
I
It's okay.
believe in May that she's going to be playing, the Eras Tour is going to be in Paris. And I'm like, he's going to do, because doesn't he seem like the kind of guy who does the like Eiffel Tower proposal? Like he's kind of like basic in a hot way.
Yes.
So I think they're going to get engaged in Paris.
Is there a chance that his team is going to the Super Bowl?
So if they do, that's going to be tough for her because she's playing Tokyo. Like I said, this is my Roman Empire. She's going to have to do a quick jaunt from Tokyo to wherever the Super Bowl is. But like,
Can she make it? Is her show
she
Saturday
can make it.
night?
Don't worry, she can make it.
Wait, so is her Tokyo show Saturday?
I believe it is, but she's going to cross the international date line.
What does that mean? You gain the hours
It means
back?
like you like get the day back or something.
Oh,
Watch,
okay,
this
okay.
is- I'm a moron. Okay, let's just be real about this.
Okay, so she comes and she goes to the game.
Yeah,
But
she's going to make
if
it.
they win, it won't be then because that's she's not going to want to step on that moment. He's not. So I agree with you on that.
They won't get engaged at the Super Bowl. No.
Okay.
I'm saying I'm thinking Paris, but like I don't know. I also thought they were going to get engaged at her birthday, and I was wrong about that. Maybe that was too soon.
I like your idea of the May because I feel like won't that be almost a year of dating, which is also appropriate?
Oh yeah. I mean, they're on that accelerated 30s timeline.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to be this invested, but like, it's.
When people didn't think it was real, I was like, no, I totally think it's real. I think it's so cute. And I just love it.
I have a question for you about
Yes.
though the is it real of it all.
Yes.
I find that people, the sort of general public discourse about relationships with celebrities is people are always like, this is fake, this is fake, this is
Because they don't want people to be happy.
But I don't think
Yeah.
it ever is. Like I've been in this business for 20 years now.
Okay.
I've never known anyone in a publicity relationship.
Interesting.
Nor have I ever gotten any inside scoop on a relationship being fake. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe that doesn't happen, but maybe I'm naive and I'm being left out of that whole conversation.
Okay.
Like, do you, Heather? Do you know anyone who's been in a relationship that was fake?
I can't remember now who this couple was, but fuck. But they would go out a lot. They'd be in paparazzi and the walks looked like it was fake, and they were young. Like I can't remember who they were, and now I can't remember if it ever stuck. It was. Yeah, you're right. I think I did kind of wonder about the Kylie and the Timothy.
I mean, that seems real to me.
But I don't know.
They're cute.
I mean, I just also think in this day and age, who's faking? Why fake it? Like, what are you gaining? I mean, does anyone really need like a beard anymore or whatever? Like, who cares? So I don't know what the point of that would be. But in the beginning of the Kylie and Timothy, it just seemed weird. It seemed like.
But they were being so private about it. I feel like if it had been for publicity, they would have been doing the pop strolls and stuff.
Yeah. And also it's just so not, well, we think we know her type, but she's young. Not everybody has a type, obviously. So she went from like this hardcore rapper to like this, artsy thin boy. So it's like, I think people were like, wow, but
The heart wants what it wants.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be pretty amazing if they
went the distance.
Yeah.
That would be cute.
And he's like a stepdad to the kids and everything.
Wait, are you friends with Kris Jenner?
I mean, I'm friendly. I've always been friendly with her, but I certainly am not calling her and asking her about Timothy.
No, I'm just saying she must be psyched because this is really, they're leveling up.
I mean, I think she's happy. She is the most supportive of everybody, probably too supportive of the men in the lives. Like,
she's making like a stocking for Tristan and stuff. Like,
yes, I remember like
I'd put his stocking in the street and run over it with my car.
I remember going to a dinner years ago, and Lamar and Chloe, if they weren't getting divorced yet, he had been caught with women, and they were broken up and everything. And she had like a dinner for her birthday at her house, Kris did. And Lamar shows up with some designer box, some fancy purse. And she was like, "Oh, Lamar." And they sit down and, he's just like pouring his heart out to her and she's being so sweet. And I think she was always, I thought, well, he doesn't have parents, Lamar. So I think she was always like a mother figure. She was a mother figure. Scott's
To
parents
Scott, yeah.
both died very young. When he was very young. I mean, when he was, whatever, like 10 years ago, they passed. So she was always for him being like, I'm not going to let this relationship end. Then the Tristan, everyone's too nice about the Tristan.
Yeah, so
But
she's
Kanye, though, I think she's been like, she's like,
probably-
yeah, she's like, she's not.
Once
she's
he
not
started calling her Kris Jong-un on
Yeah.
Twitter, I think that might have been the breaking point for Kris Jenner.
And there was that moment where Kim, I guess, wrote and was like, please, my mom is 65 years old. Can you leave her the fuck alone? Like,
And then he screenshots that and puts it on Instagram, which to make matters worse. Like, what are you doing, man?
When I talk about the opposite of what you have and getting along with your ex and raising your kids together, all the money in the world, all the planes, all the perfect body, Skims, perfect face, muted home, whatever. The fact that she has to deal with that fucker for at least, I think the youngest boy,
They're little.
Sam, couldn't even be 3 yet. Or 4 max. So, and then college. I mean, we're talking for the next 20 years, she's going to have to deal with him. And whatever new weird chick he brings around or what this is. I mean, I think the girl's in on it. I think she's getting paid.
Oh, really?
I think she's getting paid. And I think this is his weird artsy. And I think it's to mock Kim.
I definitely get the vibe that something about it is meant to trigger and mock him, for sure, where it's like, this person looks like you, but I'm going to put them in submissive situations or something like. But
and she's younger and she's pretty, very, very pretty.
I really respect Kim because she refuses to speak negatively about him, and that's got to be challenging.
I know. I'm like, really? You're going to go to the soccer game and she shows up in a pair of nylons up to her nipples holding a purple pillow? And you have to be like, hey, I got the orange slices together. Like, I mean, I just like, that is where I'm like, but you know what? They knew he was weird and he elevated them first.
Oh,
He was the one that
100%.
totally elevated them. And I feel like they all were like, oh my God, he's such a genius. He's so great. He's so generous. He was richer than them when they got together. And now Kim's a billionaire. I mean, Kim has, in my opinion, from what I understand, she's got way more money than him.
Yeah, for sure.
And does he even have the ability to get ever back on track? Does anyone care? I mean, I almost feel like he's kind of past his prime, and then all the awful things that he said, all the, anti everything that he has said is, I mean, are we going to want his ugly clothes? Remember when the whole family, including Caitlyn, did the fashion show, was wearing like ripped.
Yes, I remember.
Ripped clean, and they're all like, oh, we love it. Ripped cream clothes. And
I mean,
it was so the emperor has no clothes. I was like, what is this?
I want to believe Kanye has said and done some extremely problematic things.
Yes.
With that aside, I mean, in his prime as a musician,
Yes.
I was such a fan.
Yeah.
And it's like, I would love to see him
Yes.
make that level of music again. I just don't know if he will.
But like, what happened? Remember when he had the church every Sunday, like 2 years ago?
Oh, yeah.
And everybody was going, it was at the Forum. And then he was like, then he was going to have the.
He was going to start like a cult in Wyoming or something,
No,
wasn't he?
it was
With
in Calabasas. He was starting something in Calabasas.
Oh, yeah.
He abandoned that. Then there was going to be a school. That's been abandoned. Then he was telling her when they were still together, when she was getting ready for the Met, and she wore the one outfit that looked like it was wet. But it was like all these like
it was
drops.
amazing.
It was amazing. And she like, and he was like, well, you're a mother of 4. Why are you wearing that? And I remember she was like, I know you're on your like journey to Christ, but like the thing is tomorrow, fucker. And you were part of picking this out because he was originally making her wear weird clothes. Remember?
Well, I think he kind of I don't want to speculate about someone's mental health, but it seems like Kanye has episodes of religious psychosis.
Yes.
Because then in a couple weeks it'll be totally different, and he'll, but it's a tough situation for him.
The movie Lisa Frankenstein. I want to know, like, again, I asked you how you thought of Juno, and this being your latest film. What made you think of doing this movie? Because it's about a girl who falls in love with this corpse.
Yes.
But then comes around, and it is very dark and it is very funny. And there's some really crazy scenes that you have never seen in any other movie. So like, how did you think of this like Frankenstein idea of kind of creating this monster that she then falls in love with?
Well, I feel like over the years, we've seen so many movies about men creating the perfect woman, whether it's
yes, like Weird Science.
Weird Science,
Yes.
major inspo for this movie.
Oh,
That's why the
okay.
main character is named Lisa. But there's also, even just like a My Fair Lady type story, this idea of like
Yeah.
creating the perfect woman. And I just thought like, who's the perfect man? He can't talk. No,
Yeah.
but, it was, in my mind, I'd had this idea for a teenage girl with an reanimated corpse boyfriend idea for a long time. And then when the pandemic hit in 2020, it was right after the show had closed on Broadway. Obviously, the entire world shuts down. It's a nightmare. We're in this like surreal, dark, alternate timeline all of a sudden. And the kids are home from school, and I thought, I need to escape into something. So at night, I was writing this movie. And I was able to channel kind of all my anxiety into it. And it's a very romantic movie, which was fun for me because I haven't really ever done anything like that. And I just, I love the movie. And it's a love letter to the 80s, which was like my era.
What, and is that why you chose to maybe to make it an 80s movie versus today? Like, how did you think to do it a different era?
Well, having a teenager in my home, I see where most of their social interactions live, and that is on their phones. And I just thought to myself, like, I miss the immediacy of my teen years where it was like you'd meet up somewhere. You just had to trust that the other person was going to be there.
Yeah.
And like,
it would just be like, meet you at the JCPenney's where the bells are.
Yes.
And you just,
yeah, and you had to find your own entertainment. I know I sound like the most grizzled Gen X part where it's like, we used to ride around in the bed of a pickup truck, which we did.
yes.
But it's like, to me, that's where my deepest feelings of nostalgia live. So
yeah. And you know, it was so funny because I made my son watch Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh, yeah.
And we loved it. And when he started it, he goes, wait, really? This many people wore jeans all at the same time? And I just thought that was the funniest thing because he's like, now everybody wears just like pajama pants.
It is weird that kids don't really wear jeans anymore. They do. It's so...
My son has nice jeans, but you're right. They want to wear those like soft joggers.
Yeah.
But it was so funny. But
that was his takeaway.
But he did like the movie.
Yeah. I'm sure he did, especially a couple parts.
Yeah. But this is great. I'm so happy. And when does the movie come out to be available for everybody to go see?
It will be out on February 9th.
Great.
And in theaters. And the plan beyond that, I should know. I really have to get my details straight. But I really hope people go out and enjoy it. And it's like a great Valentine's Day movie. It's PG-13, so
I love that.
It's available for many people to see. Not for kids, but teenagers definitely. And I'm just excited about it.
I think it's going to be great. And I think it's like something you could go with your kids to, too.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I love. It's like, it definitely, I love that the Gen X and the Gen Z, there are so many fun things that you can enjoy together. And I definitely think this is a good one. So go to the movie theater, go to the fancy movie theater, or sneak the candy in your purse, whatever works for you. Just go see the movie. And where can they follow you on social media?
I'm not on social media.
Oh, you're like a real person. You're like a real actual industry. I love it.
Honestly, I'm just kind of
lucky.
I'm kind of chicken shit. I can't deal with the like.
You're not missing anything.
I'm not?
No. I have to do it. Sometimes I wish I could take a break. I wish it would go away, but it is also really great for what I do. I really need it. But I feel like if you don't, you are not missing out.
I do I am on TikTok, but I don't post. If
that's what I'm saying.
I'm Diablo Cody on TikTok, so follow me if you want, but I'm not going to be posting anything.
Right, but you can look at it and everything, but there is something nice about not seeing all the immediate responses to something you do every day.
No,
if you don't
scary.
need to do it for your business, I say don't. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So fun.
No, this was a blast. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I loved it. Thanks.